So let's move into our first, actually before that, there's a few pictures here where you can look at your horizontal or your vertical asymptotes and your horizontal asymptotes. Notice in this case, your vertical asymptote is at x equals -1. What we did is we took an x plus 1 in your denominator and set that equal to 0. And when you do that, you get x equals -1. On the second function here, you have on the bottom an x squared minus 1. So if you take x squared minus 1, set that equals 0, well, you have to factor this. This becomes x plus 1 times x minus 1. And we're going to set x plus 1 equal to 0, x minus 1 equal to 0. And that's going to give you a -1 and a +1. So there are some cases where you have two vertical asymptotes. Last one here, you have x minus 3. So if you set x minus 3 equals 0, that just gives you your vertical asymptote at x equals 3. Now to find your horizontal asymptote for each of these, notice for your first example, you don't have a horizontal asymptote because the degree of your numerator is a 2, the degree of your denominator is a 1. So since n is greater than d, there is no HA. Now on the second picture here, you're going to have, not an eraser, you're going to have the degree on top is less than the degree on the bottom because your degree on top is 0. So since it's less than your degree on your denominator, that means you get y equals 0 or f of x equals 0. And then over here on the third example, what we can do is we can say you have a 1 on top and a 1 on bottom, so you're going to take your coefficients and you're going to say y is equal to the coefficient on top divided by the coefficient on bottom, which is just 2. So those are a couple of little visual examples for you. Let's look at example numero uno. So here what we need to do is we need to find your vertical or your zeros. So in order to find your zeros, remember we are going to set your numerator equal to 0. So if we say x squared minus 4 equals 0, then if we go ahead and solve this, so x plus 2 times x minus 2, that's going to be equal to 0. You set each of these equal to 0, each set of parentheses equal to 0. You're going to get x equals a -2 and x equals +2. So there are your zeros. Drop the 0, get with a hero. That's one of my favorite pickup lines. Worked 100% of the time, 60% of the time. Now your vertical asymptote, that is where you just take your denominator and set that equal to 0. So for your vertical asymptote, you're going to say x squared plus 5x plus 6, that's going to be equal to 0. And we're going to factor this. This becomes x plus 2, x plus 3. So it looks like we're going to have two different vertical asymptotes. So you set each of these equal to 0, you're going to end up with a -2 and a -3. So there are your vertical asymptotes. And finally, your horizontal asymptotes, this is where you have to use your table. So el table, notice the degree on top is the same as your degree on bottom. So for your horizontal asymptote, what we're going to do here, what we will do here is we are going to just say our n is equal to the denominator. Degree on the numerator is equal to the degree on your denominator. So we're going to say y is equal to your coefficient on top divided by your coefficient on bottom, which just means y is equal to 1. There is your horizontal asymptote. So see if you can find your zeros, vertical asymptote, and horizontal asymptote on B. And then, so pause the problem, see if you can do this, or pause the video, see if you can find these, and then check your answer. Ready, set, go. Alright, we're back. Let's not burn it pink. Let's find your zeros. So your zeros, you would just say x minus 9 is equal to 0, which means add 9 to both sides. There is your 0. So that means on your x-axis, you're going to go to the right 9 and put a little dot. That's where your graph is going to cross your x-axis. Vertical asymptote, your VA, you're going to say x squared minus 81 equals 0. Factor that, or you can even move, since you have just an x squared, you could move 81 over here. The only problem with this, what some of you are going to do is you're going to take the square root of both sides, and you're like, x is equal to 9. And I'm going to be like, haha, you are el wrongo. You have an x squared, that means you have two answers. Well, when you find the square root of 81, you get a plus and minus 9. So be careful when you are finding those. And then finally, for your horizontal asymptotes, your HA, what we're going to get here is you take the degree on top, which is a 1, is less than your degree on the bottom, so that means you're going to have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. So I hope you learned a little something